Hi everybody, it's Nikki here, and here I am to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes tour of how I put some of my art compositions together. So if you've seen some of my previous work, or the work I typically create, it's one of two types. It's either paintings that I create using Coral Painter, or my artsy layered composition collage pieces that I create using Photoshop. And I'll see if I can show you um, some recent uh, pieces that I did, um, that I've done. So this is, I'm going to see, yeah, I have to open. Here are some of my pieces. These I've already flattened down into P JPEGs, but they usually consist of many layers of textures. So all of these items, or the splatters, the photo, which may be duplicated several times, and everything here, the splats, the textures, they're all separate layers that I combine. So I'm just going to close that out. Let me see if I can find another one. They take a while to open in Photoshop if I show you all the layered stuff. But let me see if I can find some of them. Let me show you another one. Actually, I won't show you the layered stuff. I'll just show you another one that I've created. Here is another one that I've recently done. This is all layered work, and for this I've actually flattened the file. But if I see, I might be able to show you the. Let's try. I'll open. I need to find my incomplete folder, which is where I keep all my. There we go. I can actually show you a recent one. Oh, those are not incomplete. Ah, where am I? Okay, here we go. This is my incomplete. This is where I keep all the PSDs, which are like the negatives of the the work that I do. So I'm gonna open this one just to show you um, what a finished work can look like, and just to give you an idea of how many layers we can have. So this one is called I call it Evening Light, and it's and the subtitle is London Bridge Hospital, and my focal point was actually the hospital and how I played the lights around it. So all of these, as you can see, are elements of textures. I have lots of textures that I've grouped here. I have stacks. So for instance, this is a stack, and I've grouped it. And the photo, which I typically group as well, but I haven't in this case, is clipped several times to a layer mask, a black mask here. So if I would do that, it will remove everything that is there. And I did some playing around with all the light here, and I added all these areas of interest and textures, and I use artsy transfers, which I tuck in underneath and sometimes above, and then splatters. So this looks like a very, well, maybe it doesn't look like a simple composition. It's probably not that simple, but all of my compositions kind of start with what I'm going to show you, but they go into complex pieces of art like this. And as I always say when I talk about this, it's not at all linear. None of it is actually linear. It looks linear because if I was to show you going backwards, I would probably show you in a linear fashion, but that's not actually how I create them. I also use hue saturation levels to administer and change the light. You can see I've used some here, and I use levels, which changes the light, and I clip those to my photo, or to my transfers, or to anywhere else that I need to play with the light. Okay, so that's just an idea of what one of a piece could look like. But I'm not going to do one to that level of complexity today. I'm going to say no because I didn't change anything. So this is how I would typically start. And just to save a little bit of time, I actually um, did a few steps because when I'm choosing the papers, the artsy papers for my compositions, it can take me a little while because I have to find the one I want and I have to make a decision and so on. And so I didn't want to do all of that on the video, although, you might enjoy looking through my hundreds of thousands of textures. So what I have done here, if I just unclick those, uncheck those, and check the eye, this is the blank canvas that I usually start with. Okay, and this background is locked. And what I have done is from my stash of textures here, I have dragged a few of these artsy papers onto my canvas. Okay, so what I actually did, I'll just do an example here, is drag it onto the canvas. Okay, and I do that. I always start with an artsy background, sometimes plain, sometimes more artsy, and I have to say I get my textures from a variety of places, and I have a lot of designers that I like, and I have textures of my own for my photos, and I have a lot of them from all sorts of sources. So anyway, I've got this solid paper here, and I did exactly the same thing with these papers. This is a different paper. This is an old paper, very grungy. I like a lot of grungy stuff. I'm going to uncheck it for now because I don't want the texture to interfere with what I want to do. But I also have this more greeny texture here, paper, and I have another paper behind. So if I wanted to, I could kind of bring that one up, bring the white one up. It's not really going to show at the moment because I have these layers above and they are blocking anything below. I also have the photo I'm going to use. Typically what I will do is I will really have a think about which photo I want to include, and that can actually take quite a while, and a lot of this is experimentation. So I go back and forth with photos. If they don't quite fit, I take them off and I try something else, and I play around with blend modes with all of them. And as I mentioned for blend mode, these are blend modes in Photoshop. You may or may not have heard of them, and they are the magic of Photoshop. So those and layers, they are just amazing, and I always use them. I'm actually going to set this one just for the fun of it, set it on color burn. So I've set this green one on color burn, and you can see it's darkened it slightly. And what it does, what blend modes do is that they interact with the layer and the layers of the layers that it's on, depending on the layer below it. Okay, so so what do we do next? So I have actually got a photo here, and what I am going to do is I'm going to do a photo composition that involves a mask. Now, a black mask is something like this. This is the mask that I had actually chosen. I'm going to do Control T to move it. Now, I'm not entirely sure I like this mask, to be perfectly honest, but let's not worry about that too much. I actually think it's a little bit heavy, so I'm going to try it, and if I don't like it, I'm going to change it. So I've got this mask here, and then I've got a photo. This photo is of Hampton Court in England, and it's a place that I visited a few times, and I take hundreds of photos, but this is one of the gardens there. And what I can do is just extend the photo out a little bit. This gives me a little bit more flexibility. I just click OK there. And then what I'm going to do is click this photo to the mask. Now, typically what I might do just before I do that is that I might actually sort of change the hue saturation and so on of the photo, but I wait till I clip it because then I can see what it's going to do. And to clip it to the mask, I'm going to go to Layer, Create Clipping Mask. And what's happened is that it has clipped this photo, Control T to move it, to this mask. Now, I said that this mask was a little bit heavy. I could actually erase some of this mask away, but I'm not actually sure I want to do that right now. So I'm going to pick another mask. I'm going to click on the actual mask, go to my stash here, and see if I can go down and find a nice mask. Let's have a look what we've got. This looks promising. Let's have a look at this. So they come in two kinds from this particular designer. I get them from, these are PSD files and PNG. Just PSD files will have several layers which I can recolor, change, alter, and do whatever I want with. But I'm gonna work with the PNG, which is a simple transparent layer file. And I'm gonna drag that on, and again, you see it's dropped it onto the page. Now, because the other mask is there, it's probably blocking it a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck the old mask and drag it down and delete it. I don't want to bother with that. And now you can see the other mask is here. But it's kind of hidden a lot of the photo. And so I'm going to go Control T to make the mask a little bit bigger. Let's see what we've got. And add it. The great thing about masks, and while I'm here, Control T again, it's very important that the photo covers the whole of the mask, because if not, what happens is that you get, I'll show you, you will get, let's just see, let's have a look. I pull this out. You will see that there are hard edges here, which you can actually, I can actually get rid of very easily. I can mask them out. There's many ways of doing that. I like to actually make the photo bigger to cover it rather than mess around too much with that. But if I wanted to remove the edge of the photo, I could just click down here to New Layer Mask. Make sure that I'm using black paint. And what I can do here is with I think I have a soft round brush here. I press B for brush, and I will just gently go along that edge. In fact, I'll make my brush a bit bigger by pressing the bracket key. And then you can see it's perfectly blended in. Don't need that short side. So masks are a great way of blending in photos, and I use them quite a bit. And can come in all shapes and sizes, and if you see here, you can see where I've actually masked it there. So we have our photo clipped to the mask. Another way, as I said, to get rid of that edge is to ensure that your photo actually covers all of the mask, and then it blends the edges quite nicely. Now, I love this photo, but what I'm going to do is I would like to play around with the light, and so I'm going to go to Levels. What I first start doing is I play with the hue and saturation. So I just move that lever to the left or the right, and that kind of gives me something very interesting. And then I also do the same for levels, and I can use curves. Levels will alter the mid-tones, whites, and darks. Okay. So sometimes it can take a little bit more fiddling than normal. Because I only want it on this, I don't really want it on the all the texture stuff below. What I'm going to do is clip all of these to the photo, right? So here I'm going to go to layer, create clipper mask, and also for here, layer, create clipping mask. So basically it will just apply those changes to the photo and not the textures, or not the whole stack. So that gives me that gives me a little bit more flexibility. I have often done it if I feel that I really want to brighten up the layers around here. I have I can add a clipping mask to the actual hue saturation layer, to the paper. Let's try that. Let's do hue saturation. Let's bump, make that a little bit green. So you can see how it changes that. Now I don't want it to overpower the picture, the image. The paper should always support the photo, not the other way around. But you know, it just depends. Sometimes it's the background that really tells the story, and the photo is just anchoring it. So some other things I might do here is, if I go back to, where are we? If I go back to my Opera palettes and try and find where I was here, I can actually add some elements as well. So I've got some threads, I've got some flowers and things that I can pull in and add to make the composition. So I'm going to just add this urban thread and label. I'll just pull it and drop it. Now because I've put it underneath the layer stack, that's where it's placed it. So then I can move it around and see where I want to place it. I can put it there. I can mask it if I want to mask it. I'll just leave it there for now. Okay, that might not be final. We'll see. And then I can also add other elements. One other element I can add here is that I can add some transfers and overlays. So I'm going to pull this. And the good thing about transfers and overlays, I'm not going to do it for this particular one, is that you can actually clip the photo to these overlays. Let's see, where's the best place for that? That's interesting. We'll leave it there. Leave it there for now. I think I might probably move that after a while, and I might actually set that to a blend mode. No, I'll just leave it. Another thing I can do is that if I like this photo, which I do, is that I can duplicate the photo by bringing it down to the plus sign here and letting go. And that duplicates the photo and actually boosts the light again. If I want, I can set that to a different blend mode. Okay, and it will do its magic. It'll do some magic there. I always leave the first instance. Let's see, which one of these do I like? I'm not sure. Might actually leave it as normal, to be honest. It's kind of dark. Yeah, I think I'll leave it as normal. But you get the point. I didn't want to make all of this quite so dark. So, and as I say, I can actually increase the hue saturation level and play with the levels and so on for this particular one. And what I'm going to do for this, just to keep it all together, I'm going to group these layers. I'm going to group the photos. And I can actually duplicate that as many times as I want and manipulate those layers as well. But I'm going to click on the bottom layer. I'm going to make sure I click the mask, which is the bottom layer. And I'm going to right click, and I'm going to do group from layers. I'm going to call this photo and mask. And we'll give it a color. Let's make it green. And then that groups my photos. If I want to do it with the backgrounds, I can click that artsy paper. I can also click this artsy paper, these three, click right click, group from layers, I'll call this backgrounds. And I'm not quite sure what color I'll make that, but let's make it grey for now. So that way I've got a tidier rendition of my layers. Now I have to say, I usually do this towards the end of whatever it is I'm doing, because I like to see the layers until I've actually finished using them. So other things I add, this is another transfer. Other things I add is that I add other multimedia. So I have a folder of multimedia textures and so on here. I can find my multimedia. Can I find it? I have such a lot of things. There we go. And I have splatters and stains and all kinds of things. I'm just going to drag this one of these artsy stains or splatters here. And actually I'm going to move that stack up, move it to the top. Control T to move it again, just so you can see it. And I always use splatters and stains. Sometimes I recolor them, and to recolor them, let's put it here. No, actually, how about there? I'll have it go off. There are several ways of coloring. You can do layer style, and add a color, or you can do edit, fill, and add a color. And if you want to do edit fill, and you see that the fill was not highlighted for me, what I have to do there is rasterize the layer. So change it from a smart object. Okay, and that rasterizes it. So now edit fill will be available, and I will pick color and also pick color again. What I'd like to do is to pick a corresponding color from the actual piece, from the actual photo or the artwork. So let's kind of pick this green. Let's go a little bit darker and say okay, and then we've got that there. The other way you can do it, if I really didn't want to, if I was using something on a dark background and making it a white splatter, I could actually just use a blend mode. And in fact, you can still apply blend modes to it and you can get some interesting colors. I'm just going to leave that as normal. And I can change the opacity and the fill at any time. So I've added a splatter here. I'm going to add, let's add another, maybe a paper texture. So, or maybe some tape. I'm not sure. I usually add quite a bit of things, and I don't want to bore you too much. Let's see. We've got some edges. We've got some masks. I'm not bothering with those. Let's see what we can add here. Let's add some paper textures. I love paper textures. So here's a set of paper textures that I almost always use, and they just add some interest and depth, I feel, to a composition. I'm just going to drag it. The easiest thing to do is just to drag it. I can sort of go in and out of the programs, but it's so much easier just to drag it, and I can manipulate this. And this just adds a little bit of interest and depth and texture. And I have other textures that I can add and paint in. I have some texture here, which if I wanted to add a more grungy feel to it, but not really consume the whole picture by this, I could add this grungy texture at the top, and then I can add a mask but fill it with black. So I hit Alt, click that. Seems like it's disappeared. But what I'm gonna do here is change this. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make sure I use white with my brush. So to do that, I just hit X to change that from white to black in the foreground. And I'm going to use the same brush I've been using before. And what I can do is just tap gently, just very gently, in the places that I would like the texture to appear. And that way, I don't overpower the composition with that grungy texture. I can add it where I want. I love using layer masks like this. And I can also, if I change my mind about where I want this grunge, I can just change this to black. So X on the keyboard shortcut, and then I can paint away using black to remove some of the texture. But I'm going to add some texture because I think it's nice. I love to add texture even if it's in my papers. So just tap very gently. I tend to have my opacity around 30-33% because I find if it's higher, whether I'm removing or adding texture or paint or anything, if it's too high, it's a bit aggressive and a bit harsh. And the way to avoid that is just to just have the opacity low. But it really depends on what you're doing. So, so what I've showed you here is a very simple composition. I could go on, I could add some scripting to this. I could add some more paint, some artsy paint, some drips. I can actually add some more elements. Let me add one more element or so here to build up the picture. And I have a lot of I have a lot of stuff here. I should just not bother doing all of that. Oh no, that doesn't work. That worked. Here we go. So I've got a bow and a flower and a label, which I've got. Also got a sticker. I don't really want to use those. But why don't we, for argument's sake, just use this. Pull it in, move it on, expand it a bit, and I actually want to have this behind the label. So what I'm going to do is pull it behind here, and that way it's kind of poking out. I can Control T to move it to where I want. Move it there. So I've got it behind this, and I can mask away what's on top of it if I want to. So there you go. So I've just shown you a very basic approach to doing an artsy composition, and I really love to use my photos in this way. I feel it really kind of takes my photos to another dimension and creates art from my photos and just creates a completely different thing altogether. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this short behind the scenes, and take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.